Welcome to Just Break Up, the podcast about love, heartbreak, and all the relationship advice you don't want to hear. My name is Sierra DeMulder.
And I'm Sam Blackwell. And today we're going to answer a letter from somebody who loves to give but hates to receive during sex. But before we begin, we just want to give you our Surgeon General's warning, which is that Sierra and I are not licensed mental health practitioners.
No, we are not professionals. We are not trained in this, nor are we sex therapists in any means of that word.
Or like medical doctors either. Like, let's name that as well.
Yeah. And we're not like, we're just not trained. These are just our opinions. We just we got your letter. We read it. We're going to respond to it. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. You asked for this. You asked for this when you sent us this letter.
This is all to say, please take our advice as you see fit. We're only here to offer our humble musings to hopefully shed some understanding and maybe some laughs about the incredibly rewarding, but mostly confusing experience that is love and sex. All right, diving into today's letter, it is from Rock Bottom Stone Top. Superb title. Excellent choice. Whose pronouns are she, her, who is writing to us from the hill my body apparently wants to die on. Hello to my favorite yappers of the year. Sorry, y'all. We've been doing it for 6 years. We've never been referred to as yappers, and I am here for it.
I'm really here. We are yapping. I definitely think,
we are yappers for sure.
We do yap, so yes, it's an appropriate name.
Yes. I hope y'all are staying cool amid this insane presidential heat wave.
I'm not, to be clear.
For some quick context, because I did not just fall out of a coconut tree, I grew up devoutly Christian and specifically Catholic. Sex was an awkward topic and avoided at all costs with my family, so pretty much all I gleaned from the nebulous act was that it was inherently shameful and nasty. Writing this as someone who is now so far removed from this walk of life really makes my heart hurt for the younger version of me that didn't get a chance to love her body in a sex-positive way. That being said, I'm so proud of myself for carving out information from the trenches of my ingrained beliefs in order to discover what truly aligned with my core values. Somehow I managed to realize how incompatible that lifestyle was with who I really am. I, thank God, am a raging lesbian. I want to emphasize this sentiment with all the good news first, which is to say that despite literally knowing absolutely nothing about sex beyond its patriarchal function beforehand, I don't think I've ever been so confident in telling someone that everything came naturally to me, pun intended, the first time around. In fact, I actually thought that sex was beautiful. I was very surprised to find that I had very little hang-ups with intimacy in this way. My first girlfriend even told me she was shocked because I hadn't seemed like the very physically affectionate type when we were just friends. So yay. This is all wonderful, but here's the catch. Maybe I have never wanted to take my sports bra off. Initially, I thought I just needed to warm up to the thought, but this is still a huge mental block for me, even after years and multiple relationships. It is basically a metaphor for the ultimate kicker, which is that I intensely dislike receiving. It's such a turnoff for me, and as much as I really do want to enjoy it, I cannot seem to derive much pleasure from my partner's touch or even mine in the way that they do from mine. To top it all off, yep, pun intended. Funny. I recently learned that I have a medical condition called vaginismus. This is a big reason why penetration is off the table for me. Anytime we make so much as an attempt, it's like there's an extremely tender wall inside me right at the gate. I can't describe how much it hurts and how frustrating it is for all parties involved. I want to clarify that I absolutely do not think penetration is the end-all be-all of sex. The issue is present with almost any kind of stimulation that is directed towards me. That being said, I'm still incredibly satisfied with my sex life. I never feel like I'm left wanting more. I absolutely adore watching and hearing my partner feel good. It turns me on more than anything else in the world, and it genuinely feels like when they climax, I do too. My partners have all been self-described switches, and while they have been so patient and kind with me thus far, I can't imagine how one-sided it must feel after a while of not getting to return the favors in terms of vulnerability. I'm so lost by all of the possibilities, implications, and perspectives. Sometimes I wish I just had a penis because I have a feeling that would I would definitely be able to get off much easier with one, and then my partners would also get to enjoy that with me. So while I love my sex life, I feel like I've been forced into this role of being a stone tap. At one point, I even considered if I was on the asexual spectrum. There's actually a term for people who derive pleasure solely from giving, replaceo-sexual. I can't tell if that's an issue I need to work on personally, or if I'm just trying to conform to expectations. Every time my partner touches me, I feel nothing, if not somewhat uncomfortable, even though I love her so much. It shatters my heart to see how excited she gets for just a glimpse of my body or the slightest opportunity to touch me. I feel like sexual intimacy is such an incredible source of connection within a relationship, and I'm worried that if I don't get this ironed out, I will be needlessly disappointing my partner and potentially denying us a chance for deeper intimacy. Ugh, I could write a book about this. For now, at least, thank you so very much for taking the time to read my mini novella. I'm curious about what you two might have to say about this. I'm so very lost, disheartened, and confused. All blues, absolutely no clues. Rock bottom stone top.
All right. Rock bottom. Thank you so much for writing to us. I was really drawn to this letter, I think, because of all of the ways in which your situation around your sexual desire and your actual sexual acts are so complicated and nuanced. And I think it's important for us to think about the ways in which our understandings of sex, our approach to sex, our sexual desires aren't just like, oh, this thing or this thing, but instead like just like a confluence of different influences, physical, spiritual, emotional, mental, that are sort of impacting us in lots of different ways. And, I know that you're feeling really sort of heightened about this. Like you're feeling a lot of feelings about this because sex has a lot of feelings attached to it, right? And sex is something that can be really important in relationships. Sex is something that we're definitely taught is really important in relationships. And sex is something that, can elicit a lot of shame or fear if we think that we're not doing it right? If we're not behaving or performing in the way that we quote unquote should be, as taught to us by our church, society, the communities that we're a part of. And so I really felt a lot of empathy for you in your letter, because there's so much here that I think a lot of people are experiencing in their own sex lives as they're trying to figure out the different aspects of their emotions, their bodies, and their understandings of what sex is and isn't and what it means about them. So we're going to get into some more musings, some more ideas in just a second. But before that, we're going to take a quick break.
Welcome back, my darlings, and particularly to our adorable letter writer. I too loved this letter for many reasons, mostly just the gayness that is like emanating off of it.
For sure.
Gotta love my fellow community members. Yeah, I love what Sam said about, sex is touted to us as physical, but it's so deeply emotional, and it's so socialized too. Like, we are told what sex is supposed to look like, what we're supposed to feel like, what we're supposed to like, what we're supposed to not like. And it comes at us from all different angles: religion, our parents, our family history, our bodily history, culture, the things we see on TV. Did we grow up watching Disney movies? I don't know. It comes at us from so many different angles, and thus becomes something that can be fraught with feelings of, I think I'm doing it wrong, right? And I think the first thing I want to offer to you is that the way you like to have sex is totally normal. And there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it. That sounds like a fine way to like having sex. And to use your words, I love having sex this way. I feel totally fulfilled. It turns me on so much. I love this. To me, that sounds like it's incredibly satisfying, natural, reasonable. So before we get into conversations about how we can unpack the expectations, how we can talk to our partners, how you can maybe bend towards your partners a little, I first want to say there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing that needs to be fixed or changed. And I don't want to approach this as though it's a problem. I want to approach this as this is an opportunity for you to become your best ally, right? It's an opportunity for you to allow your partner to fully know you exactly as you are and not as something that needs to be repaired. You are not hurting your relationship by not enjoying sex this way, right?
One of the things that I loved from Angela Chen's book, Ace, which everyone should read because it's great. It also doesn't matter why you like sex the way you like it. We could point it back to, oh, it was my religious upbringing, or it's because of the vaginismus that I'm experiencing, or this or this or this or this, right? And those things are important, right? Because they're your experiences and they matter to you and they're informing your experience as well. But at the end of the day, they're not things that need to be fixed in order for you to be having a different type of sex, a different type of way, right? What Angela in her book talks about is like, it doesn't matter why somebody is experiencing asexuality, right? Why they identify that way. What matters is that we believe them, that they don't want to have sex in whatever way they don't want to have sex, right? And it's the same thing is true for you here, right? I know that maybe in your head, or maybe you feel like you're being told that you should be a switch, that you should be able to receive as well as you give. And the reasons why are because of your trauma or your body or like all of these things. And I want to say, like, none of that stuff actually matters that much. What you're saying is that you like to have sex a particular type of way, that's the thing that makes you feel good, that gets you off, that makes you feel connected to your partner. And Sierra and I are just sitting here saying like, cool, sounds good. You don't need to explain to me why you're doing it the way that you're doing it, because the way that you're doing it is fine and good and works for you. And if it works for you, then it works for you. And that's all that we need to know, right? Like, that's all that we need to justify. And I know that, like, that's really different than I think other people might experience us as, and there's so much pressure around sexuality and the way that we should be having sex that, like, that's absolutely real. And I want to invite you into what Angela, I think, has gifted me, which is an understanding of the fact that, like, people just get to have sex the way that they want to have it or not have it. And like, that's fine. We don't need to go any deeper than that. We just need to be like, okay, cool. Sounds good. Have fun with that. If you're consenting and people are consenting, like, great, do what you need to do. There's nothing wrong with only ever giving and never receiving. That doesn't mean you're messed up. Doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It just means that you like to give more than receive. Awesome. I love that for you. Keep doing it. Like, no questions here from me.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned like how people assume there are reasons for things too. You know what I mean? Like, we do that ourselves. We like to self-diagnose. We like to justify, that's all natural, not to speak poorly on any of that. But I do think that when it comes to sex, we often like to think about it in terms of like, well, what broke you?
Yeah.
Like, what made you the way you are?
For sure.
And it's like, fuck, man, I just like this. This is what I like. Maybe there are reasons. Great, cool. Maybe there aren't reasons. Well, that's what your body wants. Awesome. This is not a product of anything. And if it is a product of something, that's okay too. I also want to offer to you and your partner, any future partners, the idea of giving and receiving in sex is often seen in such a two-dimensional binary way of like, okay, you do me now and I'm going to do you. And I think, I think it's, the queer community fall into that, I think, more than the hetero community. But it's true, right? Like, the idea of like, okay, you get an orgasm and then I get an orgasm. If you in the relationship with two vulvas, sometimes it's like, okay, you do that and I do this or whatever. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yep. It feels very like, here we go, I'm going to mash our letter writers' puns. It feels a little tit for tat, you know what I'm saying? But I want to offer the perspective that viewing sex as a giving and taking relationship is super binary. It's actually it's heteronormative, and it's very one-dimensional for what sex actually can be and is, right? Think about everything that your partner is, quote, giving to you when they let you fuck them, right? Think about the energy exchange that is required for, quote, topping or whatever. Like, it's not okay, now you do me and I do you situation, right? And we're limiting our thought process if we think about it as a binary or a point system, right? Because it's really going back to the idea, I think, of P and V, penetrative sex being sex, right? You know what I mean? And I know it's obviously more complex than that. It's like we want our partners to get off or whatever. But there are so many different ways to enjoy sex. There's so many different ways to be pleasured. And I think to our letter writer again, like, it makes so much sense to me when you say, I feel like I came when my partner comes. Like, yeah, that makes so much sense. That feels like the best thing to you. And so moving forward with your current partner, I think that it's really important for you to have this conversation around sex and your body by saying, like, just so you know, this is what I love. I love it. I honestly, I would like maybe read them this letter if you felt that comfortable, because you described it so lovingly, so deliciously, right? That you love this type of sex, right? And it's not only that you feel a longing, a secret longing for something else or unfulfilled. It's that you feel so fulfilled and that it doesn't feel good to be touched in this other way. I was going to say reciprocated, but let's change that language. It's not about reciprocation, right? Because reciprocation implies that there is that there's the same enjoyment on both sides, right? But we're saying, like, you are getting the same amount of pleasure that they are when you make them orgasm, period. You don't need more than that. And if they want to give you more than that, they have to, I would invite them to start trying to think about the ways that they're giving to you in this current sexual arrangement. And if that's not enough for them, then that person is not the right person for you. You know what I mean? Well, there are plenty of relationships that we are in which there's not full sexual compatibility. So I don't want to say, get lost to this person if they want more, but they do need to recognize your sexual autonomy and your pleasure as being whole and unbroken and intuitive to who you are. You know what I mean?
I totally agree with that. And it sounds like your partner is sort of receiving that and understanding that. And they're also expressing to you some desire to see more of your body or to, reciprocate some things. And I don't think that is a bad thing, right? I think we can have incompatibilities in some of our sexual desires for each other and find ways to either, compromise on some of those things or to enjoy the sex that we do have, right? Like, enjoy the overlap and recognize that, like, it's never going to be a circle, right? It's always going to be a Venn diagram. And it's up to you and your partner to decide sort of how much you want to flex towards each other. And I also say that because I want to say, like, we've talked about this idea of, like, acceptance of the types of sex that you want to have, acceptance of your body and your desire and your emotional connection and all of the different things that make up your current understanding of your sexuality. And there's also an opportunity to continue to learn and stretch and grow and try things that may be outside of your immediate comfort zone, but that are still within the boundaries of what you are willing or not willing to do, right? And I think it's important to also talk about this because us saying, yeah, what would it look like for you to try taking off your sports bra if that's what your partner wants you to do, doesn't mean that we're trying to say you have to do that in order to have good sex or you have to do that in order to be loved. What we're saying is that within the safety and boundaries of your relationship with this person who you love and you trust, and your own desire to stretch or to try something new in an attempt to please your partner or please yourself, right? You get the option to decide what that sort of flexing and adapting looks like, right? We can decide to do things that maybe aren't our immediate cup of tea, things that maybe make us a little bit uncomfortable, but that are still like in a safe space and in a place where we feel like we can consent and say no if we want to stop, right? Like that sort of flexibility can also exist in sex, even as we are accepting ourselves and our sexualities for what they are and understanding that there's nothing wrong with them or nothing about them that needs to change. We still have the opportunity to try new things if it feels like that's something that we want to do. So as you're thinking about sex with your partner, I encourage you both to talk about what are some of the things that turn you on, some of the things that don't turn you on, and where are the places where there might be flexibility in terms of how you want to approach each other in the places where your sexuality might be divergent from each other. And it's okay if you're like, actually, we don't want to do that. Actually, we just want to do the things that we are already doing that feel good for us, and that's what we're comfortable with. Cool. It's also okay if you say, I'm going to try something different and see how it goes. And if I don't like it, I don't like it. And maybe I don't like it all the time, but sometimes I'm okay with it. And maybe sometimes it's like, yeah, this feels really good. I'm surprised at how much I like this. All of those are wonderful and acceptable ways of exploring and understanding our sexuality and our bodies if we're doing it in a way that feels affirming, that is maintaining our sense of self-worth, and if we're doing it with a partner or partners or ourselves in a way that feels consensual and affirming to us.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to say too, like, okay, so you agree in this safe relationship to take your bra off. That doesn't mean your partner gets to do any nipple play, right?
Sure.
Again, like I think we have this P plus V equals sex, naked plus boobies equals, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of assumptions going on here, but, part of consent culture is recognizing that we all have different boundaries. We all have different pleasure thresholds, yada, yada. I want to offer one more thing to your partner as well. What's so amazing about like the human spirit is that you're over here saying, oh my God, I love our sex so much and I feel like I'm inadequate. And I bet you fucking $50 that your partner's over there saying, oh my God, I love our sex so much, but I feel like I'm inadequate because I can't please you in this way. Do you know what I mean? Like,
sure.
Remind your partner that they don't have to do anything differently in order for you to be wholly pleased or whatever. Like that they don't, if this is in fact making them feel insecure about how they can or cannot pleasure you, you can point out all the ways that we flatten our own sexual experiences by feeling like we're not enough. You're saying to your partner right now, you're enough. I love this, right? I love this. And they can say again to you, I love this. I am enough. I am enough.
And also, we can't assume that that's her experience, right? We can't assume that she's dissatisfied with the sex that you're having, or assume that she wishes that she could get you off, or whatever it is, right? These are conversations that you need to actually dig into, because our assumptions will most often, especially around sex, at least for me, will assume the worst, right? Like, this person is bad. They think I'm inadequate. Like, these are conversations that you two can have in a way that you can affirm each other's experiences of it, and also maybe talk about things that might also be fun or helpful in order for you two to figure out what sex looks like for you. I also just want to name, I totally understand and empathize with the ways in which it feels like your body is betraying you when it comes to sex as well, right? I think what we've been talking a lot about, sort of the emotional and identity related aspects of sexuality, but I know that it feels like there's a limitation on your body because of the condition that you have. And so there's actually also physical aspects to it here as well. And I think it's important to name that, because our choices and our understandings of our sexuality are also based on the ways that our bodies work and the ways that our bodies don't work in the way that we want them to. And that is also an understandable aspect of our understandings of our sexuality, for sure. If you had a penis, maybe sex would be different, right? If you didn't have this condition, maybe sex would be different. And this is the body that you have, right? Like this is the sex that you are capable of having given the parts that you were given, right? And so I just want to also name that like that is an aspect that comes into our understanding of sex and sexuality as well. And like, yes, lots of different things could be different about our bodies, but your sexuality, the way that it is presenting itself is because of the body that you have, in the same way that lots of people's sexuality is because of the body that they have. And that doesn't undermine it, right? That doesn't mean that it's not real or valid, or that it should be something different if only for this, right? Like this is the body you have. And so your sexuality is a reflection of that, not deterred by the body that you have. There's no other sexuality that exists except for the one that you have. Like this is it. Like this is the one, and for all of these different reasons. So I totally understand the frustration, and I deeply empathize. Like the fact that sex hurts, like I can totally understand where that would be really frustrating and awful, and see you in that. And also the type of sex that you're having is beautiful, wonderful sex. And I'm so glad that you all are thinking about how you can do this type of sex in the reality of the body that you currently have.
Right. I love that. All right. If it's not abundantly clear, we love you so much. We love you as you are. And we hope that this helps you on your journey.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for writing. We hope that this helps. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. If you would like more content from us, or if you would like access to our monthly office hours, you can support us on Patreon. If you support us on Patreon for as little as $5 a month, you will get access to those monthly office hours. This is when Sierra and I hop on Zoom and just talk about whatever we want to talk about, because it's our Zoom meeting. And we also answer people's questions as they come up. And also the people on the Zoom answer each other's questions, which is super fun.
It's so nice. Yeah. They're the best.
Our next one is going to be on August 27th at 8. Our next one is going to be on August 27th at 8 p.m. Central. 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. So check that out. That's patreon.com/justbreakuppod.
You can slide into our DM, send us your favorite relationship memes, but most importantly, you could submit your questions about all matters of the heart at justbreakuppod.com, which is also where you can find our merchandise.
Please remember to like, follow, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating and a review. This literally keeps our mics on and helps us reach more brokenhearted souls who need 2 random strangers giving them relationship advice.
Original music, recording, editing, producing, all magical things by our good friend Spencer Worth Davis. Make sure to check out his music and podcasts. And remember, your body is a good body. And the way that it is showing up, the things that it wants, the things that it enjoys, are not anything to be ashamed about. They're not broken. It's not something you need to be fixed. It's just an opportunity for you to know and care for yourself more deeply. And if all else fails,
just break up.